So I was a Lotus Notes developer in the beginning. Please don't hold that against me. And then I went to SharePoint. So I've kind of been a GUI guy, and when I got into Python, it really wasn't that great of a GUI thing. But I found something a couple of weeks ago that I'm just really excited about. So there's a library out there called Flet. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I've Googled it on YouTube, and there's like 5 videos on it. But it's really cool. So basically, and I'll get more into that after I show the demo. So basically, you import Flet, and I'm doing it with the Pandas database because that's what I do in my job. So I'm grabbing this Pandas database, and then from the data frame, I'm getting the headers from the columns here. And then for the rows, I set up a list, and then I loop through the rows in the data frame and fill in the list. And then I start the main method. And this is a Flet data table, and so I set the columns to the headers from up above and the rows from the data frame. This is the hard part that I've been working on, is getting it to scroll. So basically, I take on the data table, the last column, I make it scrollable, and then I take that column and I add it to the row, which is another control within Flet, and I make it scrollable so I can scroll, the whole 9 yards. Then I add them to the page. And so from there, all I got to do is run this, and boom, you have a GUI. And if I collapse that, I can scroll across vertically. So anyway, I did this because I work with this stuff, and I have people that all the time, David, give me my data. And so what I really wanted to do was just build a GUI that I could give to them that's with an easy button on it and says, get me my data, and it would just automatically download the data, and they wouldn't be calling me up all day long. So this is just one thing, and now we'll go to the rest of it. So this is all built on Flutter. How many people know what Flutter is? Okay, Flutter is a cross-platform language built on Dart that Google built for mobile development. And so you're probably saying to yourself, but David, we only use the web. Oops. If I can same code base. I didn't change anything here. Oops. Same thing on the web. But wait, there's more. So we come over here to the docs. Publishing your Flet app. You can publish with the same exact code base to Android, iOS, Mac, Linux, Windows, and the web. With the same code base. Not any changes. I don't know about you guys, but that impresses the heck out of me. I think it's really cool. I've done this. Well, let me show you this real quick. I think I got 23 seconds. This is a native Mac OS app that I built and compiled into native Mac code with the Flutter or the Flet library. And you can just So, I mean,
5 minutes.
yeah.
That's awesome, David. Now I need to figure out what I can make. That's pretty cool. All of that from one code base.
Yep.
Very cool.
Code base for everything.
Awesome. All right, we're going to get Bo McDermott set up on the stage here. Do you need to plug in, or are you just
just a brief moment for tech setup. Who has a computer and phone in front of them or in their hand? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Okay, if you could pull up the standard library reference, Python standard library reference. You can Google that. And then we'll wait while the rest of my tech setup happens. Thank you. You've been patient. All right, we can begin.
Let's go, George.
I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from such films as Python, Strings on a Plane, The Iterator, Iterator 2, Datetime.day, Method Max, Dunderdome. And now I welcome you to my new talk, Python Documentation, an Actor's Guide to Getting Off Book. My name's Bo McDermott. I'm not Troy McClure, although I wish it were Phil Hartman. He's cool. 20 years ago, I was a huge computer nerd. I did like a year and a half of CCNA and CCNP in college and all this stuff, and then I didn't want a desk job, so I went and did other stuff. And then I've been living my life. And then a couple years ago, a third of the company got laid off that I really liked, and I was one of them. And then 2 weeks later, one of my best friends of all time died very tragically. And I was like, huh. And so I did a lot of life rethinking. And I found myself last year, like, just diving into code. Like, it's my first time to ever pick up Python or any programming language aside from HTML in the 90s or Cisco switches. But my son here, he's 12. He's been block coding since he's 8. Block coding. Clap. Clap. Very impressive. So it's been a bonding experience for me diving into the code, but I don't have programming friends, so I do it the old way. I'm also an actor. So I took it the actor's approach, where you memorize your script, which seems kind of crazy because it's like encyclopedias for Python if you've looked at all the documentation. But why does an actor memorize a script? It's not to get hired. After all, that doesn't make you any good at acting. They memorize, the best ones that I know, because once you have it in your mind and body, the material, you can play. So I figured, why not? That's what I'll do. So if you have the built-in standard library, if you have the library stand up, I'm just going to test, because I think I've memorized everything from the built-in functions part. If you look at that introduction there, there's intro, built-in functions, all the way to the end of exceptions. So pull up the built-in functions and just throw some out, and let's see if I can remember the arguments, because I did this in December. I just memorized all this stuff. And I just want to see, anybody? Yell at a function. Enumerate. That takes let's see, it ends with the flags equals 0, right? Or the steps equals 0. And it starts with is it iterable? Yeah, okay. Anything else? What else? Come on, you people. Filter. Filter. Let's see if I can do filter. Yeah, no, I've forgotten filter because it ends in what, a value now? I don't remember. I know that I memorized, what? Range. Multiple variations for range. There's, you give it the, so I'm putting myself on the spot. Start, stop. You give it the number, start, stop. Well, anyway, I'm on the spot here, so instead I'll just do this. Abs, all, any, callable, bool, div mod, sum, pow, you know, those are the logical, mathematical, bytes, numeric. They're all just sort of sitting in there. Functions, iterators, generators, all these things, it's the documentation memorized. If you were to go into, say, the functions section, or the iterator section, how I memorize those, was not by really understanding them, but by memorizing the pictures, just the imagery of the words. So I'm just going to show you how, if you want to learn a new module, or the way that I learn a module, you just read the docs, pick 5 things that you like, 5 things that are really important to you, and then walk around a room in your town and point. For abs, pick a really stimulating image. Somebody really, really sexy is working out without their shirt on. They got their abs and they're doing the abs things. And it's got a little X on there, so they got a tattoo of an X. And remember, for iterators, I use a cow. It's a bull. For an iterable, it's an udders and bull. And for iterators, it's actually like the Terminator, but it's a cow. My whole point is that if you have just a couple images, you have an index of terms, and then you have a checklist. And that's all I do. I just have a checklist of terms that I go through, and I'm not really worried about speed because I'm sitting
5 minutes.
But that's how you do it.
All right. Thank you, Bo. All right. Thank you, Bo. All right. Go and get set up there, Walker, yeah? While Walker, all right, I will hand this off for something more exciting to Walker Hale and automatically running tests.
Okay, eating the mic. Yeah, so there's the title slide, and there. Okay, so this is my motivation. I'm telling a story. I want to run linters, formatters, tests, etc. All of that. I want to run all the things, and I want to run them whenever I make any change. Okay. I don't want to rely on continuous integration because that means I've got to wait till I push a branch. Who's got time for that? I don't want to just rely on a pre-commit hook. Then I've got to actually like git add and git commit just to run. No, I'm too old. I don't want to touch the mouse. I'm running out of time. I want to be able to easily change things. I want to be able to change my mind about what tests I want to run, if it's generating some test files in a temporary directory and I want to be able to look at a particular file because something failed. I want to be able to quickly make changes and see what's happening, and I want it all now. Okay, so here's my trick. Okay, so all of you have already seen project layouts. So there's a source directory and a test directory, and here's a little toy example. And so I could just PyTest, and it's going to run test my code. Great, and there's my module. So what I do is I just add another directory, and I've got 2 files in there. And one file is the thing I start up at the beginning of my session. The other file is going to get run every single time I do Command S. Every time I save, that's the trigger to run everything. So there's the magic at the top, that first file, watch files. Now that's based on, this is inspired by a previous now deprecated project called Rerun. And it just will monitor a directory. Every time it sees a change, it will run the command you've provided. Of course, you got to be a little clever, filter out PyCache, and otherwise it'll go into an infinite loop. And so you're a little clever how to do it. This is not the only tool that does that. You pick one. And then you've got this other script. This is the script that runs every time. And you make sure that your system is sensitive to that script too. So whenever I make a change to that loop body.sh, everything reruns. I say, I want to change my PyTest arguments. There we go. It's going to rerun everything all the time just because I made a change somewhere. And so this is it running. And if I just go in here, loop body, I don't know, and save, it's rerunning. And I could turn black on, turn black off, whatever. That's the trick. Watch files or any competing product, and it becomes your IDE. The operating system is now your IDE, and your trigger is save. That's it.
All right. So let's hear from Devin and Max on why you should do a game jam.
Make sure it's on.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Awesome.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience. My name is Max Logan.
My name is Devin Brainer. We're friends, if you didn't already know that.
Yep. And today we're going to talk about why you should do a game jam.
So raise your hand if you've ever participated in a hackathon. And raise your hand if you know what a hackathon is. So for anyone who didn't raise their hand, it's basically a time-constrained event for building a project under a specific theme. And that's what a game jam is. The theme is specifically a game, but they will often have more specific themes as well. Last summer, Max and I participated in the Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam, which is a 48-hour jam.
Yeah, and we just want to talk about first, why we did it. First off, we love video games. That's part of what got us into coding in the first place. And, we wanted to make one together. We were friends for a long time, wanted to get some extra experience, all that sort of thing. But we needed a reason to actually get started on the game. It's hard to make that first step and just get started on what you're working on. And we also needed an idea to get behind. And fortunately, the theme for the Game Jam was kind of the perfect prompt. This last year's theme was roles reversed, which was very fun.
So during the jam, we faced quite a few challenges. One of which was we decided that we were going to take this opportunity to learn a new game engine. That is the Godot game engine. It's an open source game engine. We had never touched it before, and we thought, we'll make a whole game in it in 48 hours. That'll go great. Time management was difficult, and scoping was also a challenge. Coming up with an idea that we could execute within the time frame and have success with was pretty difficult. We did our best to plan out our days at the start, but as it happens, bugs can get in the way. Also, due to the time constraint, we didn't have a lot of opportunities for breaks, and focusing can be difficult under those conditions, and we got pretty tired at night.
So how'd it go? Well, I think it actually went pretty well. Turned out we did actually scope appropriately, and we made this game, we called it Invasive Species. Very, low art. We're mainly coders, not artists, but, this game, you act as the weeds on the farm with the goal of destroying all the crops before the farmer eradicates you, which we thought was very clever for the roles reversed theme. And the reception was surprisingly good. So these were the results for the game. We ended up in about the top 11% in terms of enjoyment, which was like our highest stat. And then, of course, the top 37% in presentation, probably due to our tutorials.
Yeah, there were about 6,800 entries about. So that's our placement under those statistics.
And then just one example of some of the feedback that we got.
So why should you do one? Well, we found it pretty rewarding. It was really fun to build something cool in a short amount of time. It was a great opportunity to improve skills. The constraints of the topic and the time limit force you to be creative with the skills that you have, and you have to use them in an interesting way, especially if you want to get noticed by people reviewing. It's also really fun at the end of the jam when you are looking at other submissions. A lot of the teams came up with some really cool ideas that we never would have thought of. There was one that was one of the winners, and it was you're a dog trying to get pets. And last but certainly not least, you can use Python.
Yay.
You don't have to learn a whole new game engine in 2 days like we did. You can just use Pygame, which is an open source library for multimedia applications, specifically games. That's why it's called that. Yeah, thank you.
That's it. Thank you guys so much.
All right.